This Liberty Sports Update is brought to you by Beacon Credit Union.
Welcome back to another one of our season previews. Now joined by women's head coach of the soccer program, Lang Wiedemeyer. And coach, you started up February 7th at VCU, part of a 4-game road swing to begin the season. We caught up with you before one of the video streams we did back in the fall, and I could just sense the excitement for this 2021 season. Now it's a couple of weeks away. How palpable is that excitement with your team?
Well, it's very exciting, but it's also nerve-wracking because we've got a number of girls in quarantine right now, which is one of those things that you're just having to deal with in this day and age. So we haven't had a full practice yet. We've been together about a week and a half. We haven't had a full practice yet with everybody in it. And we probably have, hopefully, if everybody comes back this week, we'll have about a week to get ready for that game. So it's a catch-22. You're really excited about finally being able to step on the field and play a real game against somebody other than your own team. But there's also the nervousness of, as a coach, of trying to get those players ready and acclimated and figure out what our starting lineup's going to be.
And Lang, we hear that with a lot of teams around the country, not just soccer, but hey, this team hasn't had the full group, a complement to practice with, et cetera, to work out with. What are the expectations, you think, around soccer to begin the year? And I'm not just talking wins or losses, but building a trajectory that you're going to be happy with once the season's over. So what are those expectations, you think?
Sure, that's a great question. And I think that it's double-sided. I think there's a piece of us that feels like whatever we can do to get healthy players on the field and competing would be a victory for everybody. And just being able to do it. And again, during this time, I think it's really helped our players understand and appreciate how much it means to actually be able to play your sport. I think you do it for years and years and years, and you come to take it for granted. And then all of a sudden it's taken away from you, and you realize how special it was to be able to have that opportunity, and even more special when you get to do it for Liberty. So that will be a victory in and of itself for us right now. And then we kind of take it as it goes with hopefully we want to compete, although the NCAA is not really, I won't say counting this season because there is a championship. All of these players get a red shirt here. We want to shoot for, we want to do well in a non-conference. We want to shoot for an ASUN championship and go to the NCAA tournament. And I think those are our goals.
Coming off 10 wins from 2019, 6-2 in the ASUN. A lot of media people who say, well, how do you take that next step? I work at Liberty. I see the hard work that gets put into this program, and it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And sometimes that next step people can think is a sprint, but it's not. Where do you see this 2021 team in the spring and the work that you put in all last fall? What are your expectations for this team, and not how good can it be? Because we really don't know, but on paper, you've seen these girls work out. What do you like about the makeup for this team?
Well, I think that, first of all, over the last few years that have been here, we've worked really hard. And I say we, not just me, our staff, the players have worked really hard on the culture of our program and trying to kind of redefine that, solidify it, and make it something that's palpable, something almost tangible that you can feel when you come into a practice or you come in around our team. And I think that has created this awesome unity, but it's also created a different level of hunger and competitiveness within our team. We added 12 new players to our program last fall, a bunch of freshmen and a transfer. And those players have come in, and it was great to have that fall to really just focus on developing them. And I think that you combine that with some of our returning players, Melody J. Rowe, Cord Dunnick, Elise Lawson, some of these, Casey Jamison, some of these players who have played in some of the big matches, and you bring some of this youth and hunger and competitiveness into the mix. And that's what I'm really excited about. I think that's what we're creating. And I think you're going to see our players play as hard this spring as any team you've ever seen at Liberty. One kind of indication, and I don't know if we talked about this in the fall or not, but We have the heart rate monitors and the GPS units, and we monitor how many sprints they make and how much kind of energy they output and their intensity levels. And one of the things that was really intriguing for us was in the fall, our those intensity levels that you kind of the metrics that you gain from the heart rate data and the GPS stuff for a 60-minute inter squad scrimmage was higher than any real game from the fall in 2019.
Wow.
And so it just tells you how hard and how intense these girls are playing. That's just against themselves. So I can't wait to see what happens when we face an opponent that doesn't have Liberty across her chest.
You mentioned Melody Jaro, ASUN preseason goalkeeper of the year. We'll kind of start with her and then work our way up the field. What type of player is she? Obviously, the accolades speak for themselves, but what has she meant to your program, Lang?
Well, she's certainly been a rock for us in the back and kind of thrown in there as a freshman a little bit when Tori Collar, who was the fifth-year senior when Mel was a freshman, got in an accident, was injured. Her season was ended, and Mel was just unexpectedly at the last minute said, "Okay, here's the starting role for you." And I think that she has really redefined herself a little bit. When it came to her initially, there wasn't any time to think or process. She just had to play. And that was really good for her. And then she had to kind of say, all right, where do I really want to take my game? And I've been very proud of the effort that she's put into her own development and continuing to hold on to that starting spot, but more importantly, to help us continue to grow our program. So on the field, fantastic, but off the field, she's been a tremendous leader as well.
How about moving over now to Cora Dunnick, ASUN preseason defensive player of the year. And for those fans that may not know a lot about soccer when it comes to defending and keeping the ball out of the goal, what type of pillar is she and how does she help solidify your defense?
Well, again, very similar to Mel. Those two are best friends and roommates, and so they're both captains of the team. And so Cora, again, has been a rock in the back for us, just someone that's very steady, will throw her body into every challenge, will run a player down, no matter how far or how hard it is. She plays with a different level of intensity. And I think that, but she's also a player that can lead on the field in such a way that makes the players around her better. And that's what we really appreciated from all of her efforts over these last 3 years.
Coach, when you look at the stats from 2019, I'm peering at them right now. A name at the top, Gabby Farrell, tremendous player. She's moved on to the pro ranks, and under her, Casey Jamison with 5 goals, the leading returning scorer for you. Offensively, where do you see this team in 2021?
Well, we usually play 5 or 6 forwards a game. We usually start 3 up top, and we lost 5 of our 6 forwards to graduation. So Casey obviously is going to bear kind of the heavy burden of that, but we're excited. I mean, we're bringing in McKinley Burkett from a transfer from Tennessee that I think has a tremendous promise. We've got a number of our freshmen, Maddie Oliver, who's done exceptionally well up front. Lissy Gordon, who has kind of been a forward, a back, and now a forward again. She came off an injury about a year or so ago. She's looking really good in this early part of the season. I think that the difference from last year is that Gabby, although other people scored, Gabby was our main focus in the attack. And a lot of teams knew if they could shut her down, it would make it really difficult for us. And I think that to Gabby's credit, she still was able to overcome that in many games. This year, I think it's going to be a much more balanced approach. I think you're going to see more players getting goals and not one-sided. I think you'll see a midfield start to get on the board a little bit more. I think you'll see a variety of attacking schemes that we kind of put forward that to unbalance the opponent.
We were doing an interview with Trevor Johnson from volleyball last week, and he was mentioning because of COVID, there's some changes that you'll notice, some nuances if you watch a video stream or happen to be fortunate to go to a match. Are there any types of those things for protecting from a health perspective that small changes that fans might notice if they do watch on the video stream?
Well, obviously we're limited to in-house fans and people that can actually be in the seats, which is understandable. Again, we're blessed that we even have the opportunity right now to be able to represent the school, and But it's always unfortunate when you can't have all of your fans there cheering you on in person. But that'll be one piece. I think obviously we're limiting things like the ball boys and how we put the ball back in play and some of those types of things. There's no pregame handshake anymore with the other team. There's no postgame handshake. We're still going to try to do our postgame prayer, but yep. I think we're going to bring out a speaker and a microphone so people can socially distance while somebody speaks. So we're trying to create as much normalcy as possible, but there are just elements here that we've got to do to protect the players on both teams and to be able to keep having these games.
Lang, I want to go back to one final thing. To the beginning of our chat, you talked about culture, and I am enamored with culture and to see how different teams build it. And sometimes there's a fundamental key that all good teams have with a culture. What is it in your program that you've seen the biggest change in that? And what are some of those non-negotiables every day to help sustain that culture, if you will?
Sure. Well, as you know, building culture is a multi-step, multi-layered, year after year after year process. It's a living, breathing entity that grows and matures and evolves with the team and with the different leadership and the people that come in and the people that leave. But you're right, there has to be a foundation there that stays true year after year after year so that there's some consistency to what we do. And I think that a couple of the big things that we did, we created a mission statement, we created a vision statement, our core values of love, grit, accountability, and courage. These are the non-negotiables. And probably the biggest thing that we've experienced is how the players have bought into those things, that they now have taken ownership. We call it extreme ownership, where they're not just reacting to something, they're living it out every day. And so we are always doing little things to try to build and encourage and strengthen that culture, whether it's having them read books or scripture or chapels or quotes, any example, leadership development, anything that we can do where we are re-emphasizing who we want to be and that we play for a different purpose, that we play for a higher cause. And as the girls have really bought into that, it's made a tremendous difference in what they do on and off the field. Even in the classroom, our cumulative GPA is a 3.72 for women's soccer. It's so far above anything that they had 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. But it's part of the overall buy-in of the complete picture of our program. And now we saw some glimmers of that last year in the fall, beating Florida Gulf Coast for the first time, beating William & Mary for the first time, beating an ACC opponent for the first time. So I'm excited about, what those little pieces are going to result in. And like you said, you can't ever control the results of a game, but we're building something that's really special and I think is going to really explode here in the near future.
Women's soccer gets underway February 7th at VCU. He's head coach Lang Wiedemeyer. Lang, appreciate the time. Go get him, and let's go Flames.